views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the hosts and guests. All individuals mentioned are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law.
Hello. It's Carolyn from Moms for Justice. Thank you for joining me today. It is Monday, and it is a bittersweet weekend we just had. First of all, happy Mother's Day to everybody. Yesterday was Mother's Day, and I had a wonderful afternoon with my children, and it made me think a lot about what I'm going to be talking about, because I have two kids myself, and, Betty Broderick, she has passed away. She is gone now. And this is the woman whose name, she was a household name for a marriage that turned into, kind of like a war of the roses and into the most talked about double murders in California history. She died at 78 years old on May 8th, 2026 at 3:40 a.m. in a hospital bed at Chino Valley Medical Center, just outside the walls of the California Institution for Women, where she has spent more than 3 decades. She had been moved there on April 18th after a serious fall in which left her with broken ribs and then a cascade of symptoms that often happen when you're in your older age. I tell my own mother, who is in her 80s, all you need is one fall. And people forget that it's not the fall that is going to take you out. It is, by laying in bed and having broken bones at an elderly age, like in your 70s and 80s, other things happen as a result of that, like pneumonia. And in this case, with Betty Broderick, she had septic infections that she wasn't able to get over. She ended up on life support because of this and was unable to speak to anyone, which is so sad. And that is when she slipped away. So I've been following this case literally for years, okay? And what struck me the hardest about this case is when the news broke, and it's kind of good news, that her 4 children, Kim, Lee, Dan Jr., and Rhett, they were all able to be with her at the very end, okay? All 3 of them were at her bedside, and 1 through a FaceTime. But every one of them was present in those final hours, which I got to tell you, it is so bittersweet, and it comforts me so much because of the journey that this woman has been on, okay? And let's also talk about the fact that there's 4 kids here that went through a lifetime of pain, okay? They went through agony, confusion about their parents, okay? And no child should ever have to take sides. And if there's any scenario where there are sides that are very much conflicting, each side has pros and cons, okay? So it's very, very difficult. Speaking of sides with this case, it's so controversial, this case. There is a very strong community on both sides of this case. There are steadfast supporters of Betty, and there are steadfast supporters of Dan and Linda. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know why one favors one side over the other. You don't. You know what I mean? You all know, if you have been with me from the very beginning, and I've only been around a year and a half, it was one of my first cases I covered. And that was back in the day when it was Jocelyn and I. We covered the case. We followed the trial. And I have strong opinions, and maybe it's because I myself was a child of divorce. I was about the same age as Dan and Betty's daughter, Kim, at the same time that this tragedy happened in the 90s. I experienced myself the push and pull of parents separating. Okay. I experienced firsthand my parents using us children to speak to the other parent. The nastiness, the infidelity, the long climb, okay, of supporting a husband from the very beginning. At a young age, you get married, you're supporting your husband from the very, very beginning. He gets all the way to the top. You have bared children, made a home, raised those children, done the whole, doing schoolwork with them, making dinner while your husband is away at work, and you're climbing this ladder. You have big dreams with your husband, right? And then all of a sudden, you're replaced by somebody younger and prettier because that's what he feels. I got a lot of mixed feelings about it. You guys know me. I don't beat around the bush. I say it like it is. I think I'm a very fair person with my opinions. But, I come from that exact scenario. Granted, it didn't end in any kind of murder, thank the Lord above. But I've been through all those things. So I think when I was in my 20s, actually earlier than that, my late teens, early 20s, when this case was happening, I was glued. I was glued to following it because I understood a lot of what Kim Broderick was going through, One thing I will say about my mixed feelings, and I'm going to be clear about this, are two things. I do think Betty was railroaded, big time. She was railroaded. But the second point I want to make is that murder was not the answer. So where does that leave it? Where does that leave that? Well, personally, I think there's mitigating circumstances on both sides of the spectrum here. Let's just go through some of this. And then, guys, I'm so excited to share this with you. So everybody's seen the trial. It is so long. There is so much footage of this trial. But you know what I did? Pardon me. Oh, and by the way, hit the like button right now. If you're on this stream right now, please go ahead and hit the like button. If you have not subscribed to Moms for Justice, please do so. I love my community. We're a great bunch of people here. And, we love to talk about the social, emotional end of things with trials and our own experiences. And I like to consider myself a much deeper channel. So I so appreciate you all. Thank you for being here. And please, anyone's opinion is welcome here. Just be respectful. That's it. Go ahead and type your opinion about Betty and Dan. If you're on a side that you think differs from my opinion, I don't care. I want to hear what you have to say. Do you know what I'm saying? So, okay, so I created this video and it is taking some of the very best clips of the trial and I condensed it down and I put updated pictures. And it's really great. I'm super excited about it. So we're going to play it on this live today. Chill out with me. I've got some the Tazo lemon loaf tea. Oh my gosh, guys. Got to get yourself some of that tea. It is the best. It is the absolute best. And it tastes like lemon pound cake. Where's my little string? There it is. It is the Tazo lemon loaf tea with a little bit of honey, and it's like having dessert. It is so good. Now, it's hard to find in the stores, so I've been getting it on Amazon. So you can go ahead and get it on there. But yeah, don't forget to like this video. I really do appreciate your support. So I'm going to play the new remastered cut of her trial condensed down into only like an hour. But there might be somebody on here that doesn't know this case. So I'm going to quickly go through the context, so that you guys get it all. November 5th, 1989, Betty Broderick let herself into her ex-husband's house with a key that she'd taken from one of their daughters, Lee. She walked upstairs to the bedroom where Dan Broderick and his new wife, Linda Colkina, were sleeping. She fired 5 shots from a .38 caliber revolver. Both of them were killed. Betty was 41 years old at the time. She called her daughter right afterwards, Lee. She turns herself in, and from that moment forward, she insisted it wasn't murder. It was the only way, she says, that she knew to stop what she described as years of emotional and financial abuse after she had given everything to that marriage. 100% agree on that one. Okay. Her first trial ended in a hung jury because some jurors saw her side of the story very clearly and had sympathy for her. The second one happens in late 1991, and she ended up getting convicted. She was sentenced to 32 years to life and never, ever walked out of prison. There are a lot of people out there that felt she should have had a second chance. This woman, I will say this woman, I don't think would have ever been a murderer other than this unique scenario. She was not that type of person. She was not. Yes, she killed 2 people. It's horrible. She had to pay for that. I get it. But this is a very unique case, and it touches so many people like myself. Who here, tell me right now, comment below, are you the product of a divorce? Are you, and if so, have you experienced what I have experienced? 2 parents split up, and it's nasty, and they talk to each other through their children, okay? There is possibly another woman involved. All of a sudden, things got real good. You did really well in your business. The husband does really well in his business. The wife bears children. Naturally, we women, we have children. We'll put on weight. We don't look the same that we used to when we first met our husband. We sacrifice for our husbands. We do. If you're a stay-at-home mom, it's homework, cleaning the room, the laundry, all of it. And you think as a woman that my husband believes I'm a team player, that we are equal, has always felt that way. And, it takes 2 to make the family work. And that was Betty's mindset. Okay. Her relationship with those kids was everything to her. And lifting Dan up on a pedestal, she gave up any career aspirations she had. She went through miscarriages. She sacrificed. This woman sacrificed. Okay. When they met Dan. I was talking about this last night. Dan was kind of a dork. Okay. He was very, very smart, had aspirations to be a lawyer and a doctor. And he was kind of, if you've seen him, I mean, this is a picture of them here when they were still together as a family. But here he looks really handsome. But in the beginning, he didn't look so handsome. He was kind of dorky, lanky, skinny. And, we all know, ladies, the men age better than us. Why? I don't know. Men, for some reason, get more handsome in their 40s and 50s. And we're like, wah, 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 wah. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, okay, why do you think women are running out and getting plastic surgery? Well, let me tell you something. He was calling Betty fat, and he was saying that she didn't look good anymore. And she was looking into, trying to get plastic surgery. She was trying to lose all this weight so that he'd be happy with her. And he ended up sleeping with Linda Colkina, who was his secretary. I mean, and he was hiding it. He was hiding it and cheating on her. And I'm not justifying murder, guys. I need to be clear because I know there's people that are adamant, that she belonged where she did belong where she was. But I don't know if she should have been there as long as she was. She definitely needed to serve her time. And also for the Dan and Linda supporters, I want to say this. It's really important. One thing that really bothers me about Betty, against Betty is she never really repented. She never really said, I'm sorry for what she did. And that's always nagged at me. It's really bothered me all these years. I mean, that's the one piece that if she could have done that, guys, she should have been out earlier. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion on that. So anyway, to give you context before I play it, she has all these kids. She goes through the process of, raising them and supporting Dan and all that. But then she finds out he's cheating. And then comes all these mind games between her and Dan. He literally gaslights her, makes her think she's crazy, telling her she's crazy. And the fact that he is a high-powered attorney, very well respected in the area that he was working in, he had every attorney and powerful attorney on his side. And she couldn't even get anybody that would represent her fairly. You know what I mean? Totally gaslighting her. And I think that she was going crazy. And you combine that with a woman's insecurity. When a woman is down that low, she feels unwanted. She's been cheated on. She looks in the mirror. She sees the wrinkles. She sees the extra weight from all the babies she carried. That can make you nuts. It can make you absolutely nuts. And I know a lot of men might not actually sympathize with that, but I know the ladies do, right? Because we've all been there at some point in our lives. I mean, if you're over 40 and up, anybody here that's over 40 and up has probably at some point in their life felt this big, right? Because of the pressure of having to look good, how to please, to please your husband. So I have a lot of empathy for Betty. I am very disappointed in her that she murdered 2 people. There are people out there on the other side of this that actually think that Dan and Linda deserved it. I will never, ever go that far. Nobody ever deserves to be murdered. Okay. Do I understand her reasoning? Yes. Should she have murdered them? No. No. So that's my take on that. All right. So I've got this video just to give you the characters involved here. Elizabeth is Betty. Elizabeth Ann is also known as Betty. Dan, the girl he ends up marrying is Linda Colkina. They have 4 children together. Okay. Rhett, Dan Jr., Kim, and Lee. There is going to be some remastered footage in this video where you will hear Dan on 2 calls, Dan Jr., and it's been remastered, and it's so great. It's so nice and clear to listen to, and it is of the child, Dan, on the phone, Danny Jr., on the phone with Betty, and this is at a time when Betty was really losing it, and Betty started treating her children, she was using the kids to get back at Dan, which wasn't good too. So, okay, I'm going to put the video on now for you. It's all footage from the trial that has been cut up. So it's in different parts. Hopefully you know this case because it's better if you know this case when you watch this. But yeah, we're going to watch it together. Here we go.
And we were looking for houses.
Had there been, before that time, had you had any type of tradition of Christmas parties or children's parties?
Yes, we had a very large family Christmas party every year with all the families that I knew in La Jolla with young children. And we had Santa, and we had carolers on the stairs, and we had jugglers, and a lady made gingerbread houses one year, and we had a professional storyteller, and it was a huge production with a professional photographer taking pictures of each family with Santa. And when Dan made me stop doing those Christmas parties in 1983, a lot of children didn't know what to do because our party was their Christmas. So we were quite famous for this huge Christmas party we used to have, and then it stopped.
And did he continue with his attitude around the house, how he felt about it?
Oh, yes.
How about
He wanted changes, major changes.
And what do you mean he wanted major changes?
He wanted a new house. He wanted a mansion, and he wanted us to live a much more glamorous lifestyle. And he was a real grouch around me and the kids all the time. Of course, that was from my perspective because he had me walking on eggshells trying to please him, and I was real tense. And the children noticed it right away, but they never knew why. It's because in my trying to please Dan Broderick and make things perfect for him, I became very tense and short-tempered with the children, but they never knew why.
For several years before Dan and Elizabeth Broderick had separated, they had lived in a house in La Jolla on a street called Coral Reef. They all lived there. It was a very nice home on a large lot, but for the last couple years of their marriage, they had both basically wanted to move someplace bigger. In the meantime, the slab on the Coral Reef house had cracked, and it needed to be fixed, and it was a major thing. They had to move out in order to do that, and so they did. They all moved out into a rental house, which was in the La Jolla Shores area of La Jolla, which is one of the nicest areas of La Jolla. It's just a couple of blocks from the beach.
And sometime in 1984, did there come a time where you moved out of the family home?
Yes, when we sold the house for $325, we were selling it as a damaged house with a cracked slab with full disclosure to those people who were buying it. And so Dan thought he didn't want to sell it like that. He wanted us to repair the cracked slab and fix it all up and sell it as a undamaged house, so that he said somebody would sue us if we sold it with a crack. So we ended up moving out. This is all an insurance deal. We moved out of Coral Reef. Insurance took over. They ended up demolishing Coral Reef and doing grouting with machines, and they messed up the whole house. And the insurance people paid for us to live in a rental for 9 months out of the year while they destroyed and rebuilt Coral Reef to fix that cracked slab.
Okay. And so in 1984, in September of 1984, where did you move?
To La Jolla Shores on Avenida de las Ondas.
And did you arrange for the lease to cover a certain period of time?
It was a school year lease versus a year-long lease because the people who owned the house only came to La Jolla in the summer. And so it was available for the school year.
Okay. And in
September to June.
And did you move into the house in September of 1984?
Yes, we did.
And did you all move into the home?
Yes, we did.
And that rent was paid by the insurance company?
Yes.
We were in a rental house in La Jolla.
This is Kim.
La Jolla Shores.
And was there a particular reason why you had moved to the rental house?
Because our house is under construction. Because half of it was sinking, kind of.
And that was the Coral Reef house. There was a problem with the house at Coral Reef.
Right.
Did all of you move into the rental? You, your mom and dad, and all your brothers and sisters?
Yes.
When the marriage ended in February of 1985, it followed shortly on the heels of an argument that Christmas, where Elizabeth Broderick was again furious, but this time it was because Dan had not bought her the present that she wanted. And this is her own description of that. I also had a ring on my wish list, a beautiful diamond eye popper from the collection in La Jolla. We certainly had the money for it. It looked great on my long fingers, and God knows, after all he put me through, I'd earned it. In fact, I told him he owed me big this Christmas. He presented me with a teeny-weeny ring like you'd give a 10-year-old. It wouldn't even fit my pinky, and I wouldn't be caught dead wearing it anyway. I didn't need a ring. I only wanted the ring.
Okay, I'm just going to stop right there. So one of the things is that, it complicates things because at some point, Betty, getting to the point of success, Dan was at a point of success. They were now, considered wealthy, and she was, definitely making some demands. She wanted to live like she was wealthy, but so was he. He was buying, sports cars and things like that. But I think at this point was the time that he was starting to cheat, and, she was suspicious of that. Keep in mind, he never came home until very late. He would work all hours, and it would be hard pressed for him to be around for family time. So she is saying things like, you owe me big time this year and stuff like that. Now, I personally wouldn't be like that because that's just me. I'm not like that. But I think Betty had a little bit of greed and wanted to have, nicer things and was being on the demanding side. I don't know if they're going to go into it on this video because obviously, guys, I cannot fit everything in. But I know she sets his clothes on fire, throws him out the window, sets his clothes on fire. I mean, she starts making really harsh decisions, hoping that the decision was going to make him come around and come back to her. But instead, her bad decisions were only making him dislike her more and pushing her away. So her tactics were failing on her. And that's what you're hearing about here, but again, I could not fit everything in. So yeah, this video is probably more for people who already know the case.
If he didn't want to splurge for the ring, he needn't have insulted me with that tiny piece of shit. I told him it wasn't even worth the gas in my car to return it and gave it to my daughter. Just a short time before he left, had there been an argument at Christmas time over a present that your mother was unhappy about?
Yes, about a ring that he gave her.
Can you describe what happened?
She wanted this emerald ring that she's been eyeing for a long time. She really wanted it. And then he went and got her a ring, but it wasn't the ring that she wanted. So she said it was a disgrace and that she wasn't going to wear this, and it was like a child's ring, and then she threw it.
When you say she threw it, what did she do with it?
She opened it, and then she got mad about it, and then she threw the ring.
What did you see the ring? What kind of ring was it that he gave to her?
It was an emerald ring.
It wasn't the one that she had requested?
Right.
When they separated, which was in February of '85, Dan moved back into the Coral Reef house. It was still under construction. There wasn't any furniture in there. It was basically a mess, but for lack of any place better to go, he moved into Coral Reef and was basically sleeping on the floor on a sleeping bag. Like I said, it was ultimately Dan Broderick's decision to leave the marriage. But it wasn't because he suddenly turned 40, and it wasn't because he suddenly had a midlife crisis, and it wasn't because he didn't like the fact that Elizabeth Broderick had gotten old and fat. She was neither old nor fat when they separated. She was only 37 years old, and she was in fact thin and beautiful. In fact, this is a photograph of her in 1985, the year that they separated. It did.
Okay, listen, I see what she's trying to do here, but here's the thing. She's not 100% wrong, but here's the thing. He was with a younger woman at this time when he's leaving her, okay? And he is totally comparing the younger girl to his current wife who, has, gotten a little rough around the edges over time. So she's just trying to like pass it over as if it's nothing. However, in her defense, the prosecution's defense, I do think that, like I said before, Betty was playing games back with him and was making some harsh decisions that I think would really make her even more unlikable for Dan. So I think it's a combination of things. But for her to try to pass it off as if, he wasn't trying to trade her in for a newer model is the biggest bunch of BS I ever heard.
Didn't have anything to do with rejecting her for her looks. It had to do with being in a loveless and volatile and unhappy marriage for years, recognizing that it wasn't going to get any better, and finally deciding that he just couldn't live that way anymore. If Elizabeth Broderick was angry about things and felt that he owed her before the marriage ended, Dan Broderick was totally unprepared for what was to come after.
Now, sometime in 1985, did Dan move out of the rental house?
February of '85, yes.
Okay. Remember the date of February 28th, 1985?
Yeah.
Okay. And did he tell you why he was moving out?
No, he just came home from work, and I was laying on the bed watching the news. It was kind of 6:30 or something, and he just said, "I'm leaving." And I said, "Oh, where are you going?" I didn't realize it was, "I'm leaving."
Okay. Did eventually he tell you that he is leaving permanently or just moving out of the house for some period of time?
He said he was, then I caught on that he was leaving, and he started taking his sweaters out of the armoire and packing the red Corvette with his clothes.
Okay. At that time, did he move out right then?
Well, he packed the red Corvette, and then he came back in the house and he said, "Do you want me to leave now or in the morning?" And I said, "Oh, no. I'm married to a lawyer long enough to know not to answer that question. You leave whenever you want to leave."
Yeah, because she's saying that he would want her to be the one to say, "You got to get out now. Get out now." That way he could use it against her. And that does happen. You have to be careful what you say because it's going to come back in during the divorce proceedings.
And so he stayed the night.
Did he leave that morning?
Yes, he left the next morning.
Did you know where he moved to at that time?
No.
When was the next time you eventually became aware to where he moved, did you not?
I thought he moved to a hotel or an apartment or something because Coral Reef was such a mess from all this construction. It really wasn't inhabitable.
Did you sometime though later learn that he had moved to Coral Reef?
Yes.
And when was the next time that you saw Dan after he moved out?
I saw him on St. Patrick's Day of that year, 1984. 85.
When?
Over that I wanted her to take home. And we had just been at Warden Springs, and she didn't want to take her home. She was tired, so she said no. And we got in an argument, so I went back into my room. And then Mom came in and said that pack up and leave, that she didn't want me there anymore.
Okay, so just for context, after he moves out and he's now with Linda, Betty is, she's pissed. And she makes this awful, fateful decision, one by one, sending each child back to Dan's because Dan didn't have any experience raising kids. It was Betty that did it this whole time. So she thought that by sending the kids to him, that he would come back begging and going, "Okay, I'll work with you now on the divorce and we'll be able to mediate this whole thing together. I can't obviously take care of these kids. You need to have them back." But instead, it backfires on her. He and Linda together are like, "Fine, I'll take each kid one by one. No problem. They can stay and live here with me," which essentially alienated Betty even more. So those were bad decisions on Betty's part. She should have never used her kids in her retaliation towards Dan.
I can go live with Dad, so then I packed up and left.
So you packed up your clothes, and did she take you over to your dad's house?
Yes.
At some later point, did either of your brothers or sister come over to Coral Reef?
My brother, Danny, came over the next day on Easter, and then my sister, Lee, and Rhett came over a month or two later.
How was it that Danny was brought over?
He was fighting with Rhett, and Mom had enough of it, so she told him to pack up and move with me.
Did
One by
she
one.
actually bring him over?
Yes.
What was his emotional state when he was brought over?
He was really upset. He didn't want to come over there.
Was he crying?
Yes.
And then you indicated some couple weeks, month later, both Lee and Rhett were brought at the same time.
Yes, they were.
And again, what was the circumstances of them being brought over?
They were hysterically crying. They were very upset. Dad wasn't home. It was late at night, and I don't know what had occurred at that house that made her bring them over, but she brought them over and dropped them off in the living room.
And did she say anything about why she was dropping them off in the living room?
She said, "Let him try and deal with 4 kids."
See?
No, she didn't give us much of a reason. She just said she wasn't going to be left here with 4 kids, so he could have us.
Which unfortunately, guys, it's only going to affect the kids too. The kids are going to remember that. They're not going to forget, and it just, and like I said, and I'll talk more about this when we're done, but like I am the product of a situation like this myself. And I have 2 sisters and all 3 of us were in the middle, and it's not fun. It is not fun at all. And it affected us greatly.
As Dan was gone longer and you were in the home, did any of the problems as far as how you were feeling, security, insecure, did they get worse at all?
Yeah, he wouldn't give me any answers about the money, wouldn't give me any answers about anything. My dad's birthday was happening in New York. I saw an opportunity to I just gave him all the kids and I took off and said, "Here, you deal with this." And I gave him the kids and went to New York, and I spoke to my parents about what was going on, and we looked at real estate in New York. I figured if it was going to lead to a divorce, I would just take the kids and move back east.
Dan Broderick didn't refuse to take the children. He could have. He didn't pick them up and dump them back on her. They were traumatized enough. He couldn't understand why she was doing it. But he basically set about trying to take care of all 4 kids the best he could. And it was tough. It was tough on all of them. He wasn't real good at it. He'd never been their primary caretaker. He'd been the primary wage earner. But he did try. He certainly didn't abandon them. When Elizabeth Broderick realized that forcing him to take care of the kids didn't really make him as miserable as she thought, when they actually all started doing reasonably well, she just got angrier. Her attitude then was, how dare he actually keep them? But she wouldn't take the kids back, even though at that point he would have willingly let her. They were a tremendous handful for him. And she has lots of excuses for that now.
What was the trip to New York, had that been pre-planned?
Yes.
And what was the occasion for that?
My father's 70th birthday.
And did you go back to New York?
Yes, by myself.
Was Dan telling you anything about Linda in around May, June of 1985?
Oh, yes. That she just simply worked for him, and she was an innocent young girl, and there was absolutely nothing going on. And there was no affair with her, and he was not even dating her, but he needed his space, and he was living at Coral Reef. And after I put the children there to go to my dad's party, when I came back, I left them there because I had to move out. Started packing boxes and moving out of the rental.
See, you hear the gaslighting. Oh, nothing's going on. Nothing's going on between me and her. Let's look at that picture again. Let's see. Okay, guys. All right. You see her there. You know, back then, not everybody was getting plastic surgery like they are today, right? And you know the way Betty looks in that picture. She looks her age in that picture. And imagine finding out that this is who your husband is sleeping around with and is trying to gaslight you and make you think it's all in your head. She's just my secretary. Nothing's going on. She showed up at his office, and I know that clip is not in here, so I'm going to give it to you right now. This is a piece of information that I don't have in this video. I don't think I was able to include it. But when they were still married and about to separate, Betty and Dan, she thought, well, I'm going to get myself all dressed up on his birthday and go to his office and take him out for lunch. But she did it in a surprise manner. She didn't let him know ahead of time. So she gets to his office and she shows up, and there's, she sees his office has balloons everywhere and, 2 glasses where there was obviously some half-drank wine, and there is cake that had been eaten, but no Dan. He wasn't there. And, remember, his secretary is this woman you're looking at right now, Linda Kolkina. So there was another person that was in the office that saw Betty show up for this surprise that she had for him. And she goes, where's Dan? And she goes, oh, he left for the day. And it turned out that him and Linda did whatever they did the rest of the day. I mean, that is enough. And then you see her, you see what she looks like. And then you look at your life and all the sacrifices that you've made. And you look, I'm at home all day long with 4 kids, and I'm running a daycare out of my home. I'm selling, I think she did like Tupperware parties at one point. She was trying to make extra cash. She wanted to teach. She was doing the laundry and cooking dinner. And half the time he wasn't even home for dinner. And it's like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? That is enough to make a woman go insane. Okay? Just wanted to point that out. All right, let me go back to where I was. I just wanted to point that out. Oh, lost my spot. Hold on. Okay, here we go.
And what was he telling you about the marriage?
He wasn't telling him anything about the marriage. He just needed his space.
Okay, so
I need my space, he says.
No. No, we were still buying a house.
Did you?
Through all this time, we were always negotiating on and buying a house.
No, he was leaving
The
her.
lease on the rental was due to be up in June of '85. And so Dan had offered to move out of Coral Reef. The defendant could move in. He'd go find a condo somewhere. But she...
Do me a favor. If you are somebody that has had this happen to you, I want to hear what you have to say. Have you been with a man and climbed that ladder with him and he left you? It doesn't even have to be a younger woman, but even better, I want to hear what you have to say about it.
Didn't want to do that. She had found a house that she wanted to buy in the La Jolla Shores area. And so Dan agreed to do that. They bought a house on a street called Calle de Cielo for the defendant to move in, and she did. She moved in, and this is the house that she continued to live in until the time of Dee's murder. It also was a beautiful home. When she first moved in, it needed a lot of fixing up, but it was on a gorgeous lot overlooking the ocean with a view of the ocean. It had 4 bedrooms, 6.5 baths. It had a pool, had a jacuzzi, it had a putting green. It cost $650,000 and later sold for over $1 million. In fact, this is the real estate ad for that house on Calle de Cielo that the defendant lived in.
In fact, did you find a house and negotiate?
It wasn't that I found the house just then. It was the same property we had looked at before. It was still available. The price had gone down literally hundreds of thousands of dollars. We ended up buying a property that we had been looking at for a long time, yes, with only the intention of knocking the house that stood on it down and building the dream house that Dan wanted.
You remember when it was that that house was bought?
Right around when I had to get out of the rental, right in June of '85.
Well, what was Calle de Cielo like when you first purchased it? What condition was it in?
It was a mess. There had been several generations and lots of numbers of people living in there, and they tried to market it as an 8-bedroom house. And what it really was is they made the garage into 3 bedrooms, although it was still a garage. They just called it 3 bedrooms, and then they put curtains down the middle of one room and called it 2 bedrooms and added a bath. So they thought it was an 8-bedroom house, but what it really was a 3-bedroom house, 3 real bedrooms, and a bunch of choppy up other messy stuff. And there were holes in the floors. Every single door had been kicked through and cracked and broken. There were no kitchen appliances, or the few that were there were so rusty and disgusting they had to be gotten rid of. It was a leaking roof, and there was terrible termite and roof rat damage. It was a mess. And the landscaping was a mess inside and out. And it was a perfect house to do what we wanted to do.
And when you moved into Calle de Cielo, did you have furniture when you moved in?
No,
Maintaining contact with your children at that time?
I was trying to.
Okay, and how were you doing that?
I could see them at school during a school year, but there wasn't very much free time. I would have lunch with the younger ones, but I'd see them after school, but really they just come out of school and get on a bus and go home, so it wasn't much of a visit. But I'd have to go over to the house if I wanted to see them. That was the only way I could see them.
Okay, so
Or telephone them.
So did that mean that you went within 100 yards of that home to see your children?
Continually, yes.
Okay.
So at that time, Dan was paying the mortgages for both the house in Marsden Hills and the house in Calle de Cielo, which were both fairly substantial. They were expensive homes. And he was also paying the mortgage on the Coral Reef house, which was now sitting empty. Nobody was there anymore. And so he wanted to sell it. That's what's called a wasting asset. He wanted to sell it and split the proceeds between the two of them, 50-50. It's a community asset.
Did you come to learn sometime in December, January of 1985 and 86, December of 85, January of 86, that he wanted to sell Coral Reef?
Yes.
And did you want to sell that home?
No, not at that time.
And why not?
Because it was the one asset in the whole world that had my name on half. So I knew he could cheat me out of anything else, but I didn't think he could cheat me out of that because my name was on half. And we are in a split up now, and we are in the process of a divorce, and I figured it was a bargaining table. And I've got what I've got, and you've got what you've got, and we're gonna talk about switching and stuff, and that was the only thing on my side of the bargaining table was half of that house. And I didn't want to give it up until I knew what I was trading it for.
Now, there was some testimony about that house being a depreciating asset. In other words, that house in La Jolla was going to, if it wasn't sold, was going to be going down in value. You were going to be losing money. Do you remember a conversation about that? That where someone
I don't think I was part of that conversation. I think that's what he told Mr. Jaffe that time. No, the house could have been rented for about 3 times what it cost to keep it going. It would have been a great investment to keep.
At that point, Elizabeth Broderick was being represented by an attorney trying to get her children to hate their father as much as Sheena did. In fact, her goal was, and still is, to get everyone to join in her hate.
I don't know if I would describe it as that. I think she just wanted to be heard. I think she wanted everybody to see what she was seeing. And I gotta say, on Betty's side, I see exactly what this guy was doing. He was using his position and to completely gaslight this woman and to, and she unfortunately made it worse for herself by making some dumb decisions thinking, I'm going to come back at him. She went to fight his butt. She went to go after him. And because she is considered a nobody compared to his credentials and all his high-powered friends and having the kids now living with Dan, she just sunk further and further into a hole, making her mental state even worse. Again, does not justify murdering, but there needs to be a conversation and clarity about the fact that this woman's mental health was completely plummeting. It just has to be said.
Some of the evidence that you'll hear that shows the intensity of her hate, her desire to publicly drag Dan Broderick through the muck, and her attempts to sabotage her children's relationship with their father, comes from the messages that she would leave on the phone answering machine at the Marsden Hills house. Sometime in 1986, Dan had installed an answering machine on his phone, right about the time when those things
Oh
started
boy,
becoming
it's going to get
popular.
bad with this.
During that time, Elizabeth Broderick had been saying things to him, and particularly to the children, that when he would describe them to other people, they had a hard time believing. Sexually describing him and Linda in sexually explicit terms was one example. Telling her children that she was going to kill their father was another. Dan Broderick finally started keeping some of these answering machine messages, some of the ones that were particularly bad, so that, for example, the children's psychologist who was trying to help them through this time could hear what she was actually saying. And I'm going to play a sample of some of those messages for you.
Okay, and just for context, I just want to go into that one small section. So at this point, she is completely unhinged. She's starting to get unhinged. She's now being kept from even being able to visit with the kids. She calls over to the house where Dan and Linda are living, and now all four of her children are with them. And they make a point, Dan and Linda make a point of never answering the phone and always just putting their answering machine on, which is starting to drive her crazy because she can't get anybody on the phone. And what she does is she makes her situation so much worse by leaving foul language, really terrible voicemails into like cursing them out, calling Linda the C word. And then when she does get on the phone with her children, especially Danny Jr., Dan Broderick Jr., she's basically telling them all sorts of names about Dan and Linda to your own kid. That's still his dad. So just want to give you that she was starting to go crazy because she couldn't get anybody on the phone.
I actually love this machine because then I can really just say anything I want. Tell the kids that you don't think it's wrong that your school that comes in the hall that has their legs wide open for anybody who comes by, and you're paid for it. God, you got a sense of humor. I love it. Wrong.
Oops. Hold on one second, guys. I'm having an issue. Hold on. Give me 1 second. All right. I just have to switch this over. Hold on. I don't know why I did that, but it's really strange. Okay. Sorry about that. All right, here we go. So as you know, there is a voicemail message where she is leaving a message on the whole family's voicemail talking about Linda being a C and how she opens her legs for everybody. So terrible, right?
Secretary, etc., etc. I have very important things to ask you. You're making me mad. I'll kill you. Oh, fuck it, it's me. I took the advice of hundreds of people who told me to call Marvin Mitchelson a year ago. I finally did it, called him. He's going to come down here and tar and feather and make even a bigger public asshole of yourself than you've done all by yourself. I'm just going to have to pay him a little for it. This is going to be fun. I am just going to let it. The bigger they are, the harder they fall, tougher they talk.
Yes, at one point, to LaDonna reminds us here, LaDonna Girl says that Linda put herself on the answering machine. Yes, clearly, and it was clearly a ploy. It was originally like, the Broderick residence. I don't know if it was Dan's voice or one of the kids, but they eventually put her being the one as giving the voicemail greeting. And they believed that it was specifically at this point when they knew she was calling all the time just to drive Betty crazy. So.
Suckers you. Anyway, you remember how your favorite case was going to court, the guy went to court to prove the other guy was an asshole and he won? I want to go to court to prove you're I'll win. I love it. This is going to be so much fun.
She'd obviously heard a lot of anger and a lot of venting. That's not particularly unusual. But only on a very few occasions had she ever felt the need to take someone's statements seriously enough to warn the other person about them. And this was one of them. She called up Dan Broderick to warn him about the threats that Elizabeth Broderick was making and the need to perhaps take them seriously. And incidentally, he did take them seriously. By this time, he had been telling his children for quite some time that she had been telling her children for quite some time that she was going to kill their father. There were 5, maybe 6 different times over the years where he went so far as to hire security guards to come to his house to protect him because he was afraid of what she was getting ready to do. After 3 sessions with Dr. Roth, Elizabeth Broderick refused to come back. And she told Dr. Roth the reason. She said, "You're too good. You make me forget how much I hate Dan and Linda. So I'm not coming back." She didn't want to put the hate behind it. She wanted to keep it alive. She had the ability,
How would you describe your feelings at that time?
I had written Judge Jill.
Of course, she doesn't want to put it behind her. Look how many years she put into the marriage. I would have a hard time letting it go, too. At some point, Betty should have let go. Should she have, handled it better? Most of us probably would have been like, he's not worth it. I'm just going to, forget it. I'm done with this guy. But I also understand why she held on so long, because it's just, so many years of her life. She gave up her education. She gave up her, a career. She wanted to do so much with her life originally before meeting Dan. And she gave it all up for this guy. So it's really hard to let that go. Plus, what an insult to be left for this younger 20-something-year-old woman who's your secretary you've been lying about all this time. It just, oh my gosh, doesn't end.
Of this letter that said that this is not the legal system that I learned about in school and that I later taught about in school. Where is my public trial by jury? This is a private trial by self-professed, longtime good friend of my husband's. And I thought it was gang rape. And I said that in that letter. I thought I was being grossly unfairly treated and taken advantage of. And I said I was going to complain about him to the Judicial Council of the State of California.
Then he told me you're afraid of me. You better damn well be afraid of me and keep pulling like this. They're paying this insurance bill now, or you're going to be damn afraid of me.
Did that message have anything to do with talking to the children or wanting to talk to the children?
No, it had to do with desperation having to deal with him.
You didn't have any problems, obviously, asserting yourself when you were angry about something. You called him up and you demanded that he did something, or you were going to do something to him, correct?
He never did anything that I demanded.
What a mess.
It was just empty threats.
You had specifically been advised, whether you agreed with it or not, by the judge when you went through the contempt hearings, that conduct was harassing. Using that language was harassing, correct?
Yes, and I disagreed.
In fact, the judge had talked to you about the fact that not only was it harassing and disturbing the peace of everyone in the household, but that it was obviously not good for the children to be exposed to those kinds of characterizations, correct?
I don't know if that's what the judge said, but I considered the phone answering machine and leaving me cut out of everything with no recourse was annoying, harassing, and bothering me. More than me yelling back at him was annoying, harassing, and bothering him.
He told you that you were clearly engaged in a pattern of conduct that was harassing and that it had to stop, correct?
And I told that judge he could sentence me to 21 years in jail and I would not stop trying to get in touch with my children. But he had no right to cut me off from my children.
Nothing that you were ever held in contempt for trying to get in touch with your children.
Wrong.
It was for using the language that you used, correct?
It was for using the language that I used when I hit the machines that were put there for the sole and explicit purpose of keeping me from my children, which drove me crazy, guaranteed every time.
And if you knew that it was going to drive you crazy, guaranteed every time, you obviously had the ability to recognize it was going to be there and to not use that language, correct? But you did it anyway.
I wanted to get in touch with my children. I was not putting up with that.
Summer of 1987, did you have any plans to go?
I mean, she definitely made bad decisions, guys. She definitely made bad decisions, but I understand why. If you are just joining us right now, we are, acknowledging the death of Betty Broderick, and we're going a little bit back down the rabbit hole. This video I have here is pretty much her entire trial condensed down to an hour. So I'm playing it right now, and it doesn't have every single clip or every important moment in it, but I'm trying to throw some context in there in between so we can get through it. But I think it deserves another listen, another watch. I think that this woman, I think it's such a tragedy, this woman. I really do. And I think there's 4 children that were deeply hurt by both sides, didn't know how to handle the whole scenario. I think both parties made horrible, horrible decisions. It's just such a mess. I don't think there's a messier divorce out there than this one. I don't.
For the children and myself. And that's important that I bought it at the auction, which is why when we were leaving and Dan wouldn't let the kids come, I couldn't get my money back. My money went to the bishop's school. It didn't go to the hotel or the airlines or anything.
Did you make plans for the children to go to that?
As much as I could with no custody, as I discussed it with the kids and they wanted to go, I wanted them to go. It was summertime. They had no other plans. There didn't seem to be any reason to me that they couldn't go. But Dan wouldn't let them go at the last minute.
Okay, so that was a decision that was made at the last minute.
Exactly. The day I was leaving, they couldn't go.
Okay, now what kind of place did you go to? Was it
It was a family place. It was all families and children and on the waterfront beach. And it was a very family place. And I had a 2-bedroom condo.
Okay, and did you go on that trip?
I was torn of whether to go or not the day I was leaving because I'd never been to Hawaii. Neither had the children. And my choice was go to Hawaii by myself or not go at all and lose the whole trip. So I did end up going by myself just to see what Hawaii was like.
Did you ever tell the children that they couldn't go?
No, they know they were supposed to go.
Now, sometime in 1987, did you have some family visit you from back east?
Yes, I had a cousin and his wife and 3 children, and I had my brother Frank and his wife and their 2 children, and I had another family from the Eastchester, New York, a mother, father, and 3 children come visit because I lived near the beach and had a real nice house, and they came to visit.
Okay, and was this during the summer?
Yes.
Okay, and was there a time when you tried to get your children to be able to go with you to a family outing with all their children?
Yes, especially with my brother Frank and his kids. My kids had never met. They're first cousins that live in Tennessee, and they're very compatible in ages. And it turned out that Mag and Frank went to a convention in Las Vegas and left their children with me, and I wanted to take their children and my children to Warner Springs Ranch so they'd have fun together, and Dan wouldn't let my kids meet their cousins.
Okay.
Wouldn't let them go.
Was there anything
an
the children
example.
were doing? Were they out of town, or were they just...
No, they were home doing nothing in Marston Hills.
Just another example. I'm glad I'm watching this with you guys because it's bringing I know this case so well, but it's bringing things back that I'm remembering as we go. He was making demands that would further irritate Betty and make somebody feel inadequate, like she was too crazy. Like he had the upper hand, she did not. He would say when the kids could be seen, he would like make plans for Betty to have time with the kids and then not show up with the kids or cancel it. And it was just a downward spiral. I mean, it is unbelievable. If you don't know this case, you need to know this case. If you're a lover of true crime and I'm telling you, it's a rabbit hole. It really is. Total rabbit hole.
Did you ever tell Rhett that his father was a cold-hearted bastard?
I know that's exactly how I felt at certain times, you
The
know.
question is, did you ever tell Rhett that?
I don't recall specifically telling Rhett that, but it's very likely that I did, yes.
Did you tell him he didn't belong in the slums with?
Yes, probably.
Did
I
you
didn't
tell
think he
him?
did.
You tell him that you don't have anyone that loves you or cares you over there, cares about you over there?
He didn't. He was being horribly neglected by those babysitters and by Dan and Linda. He was being left alone. He was running away. He was suicidal. He was
Did
depressed.
you think that that made Rhett feel better for you to keep telling him how horribly he was being treated?
Your Honor, objection, it's irrelevant.
Rhett knew how horribly.
That's relevant, you can answer that. Overruled.
Rhett knew how horribly he was being treated, and he wanted to live with me, and he was running away all the time. He knew it. I didn't have to tell him.
Did you think that it was appropriate to tell his father that he was an asshole, tell his father to drop dead?
About particular things at certain times, I probably said those things. I did think Dan was all those things.
Well,
Most of the curse words are going to be bleeped out, guys.
you said that this conversation that you had with Danny, that we've heard the tape of, that was an aberration. Isn't it true you had conversations like that with other conversations like that with Danny? You had conversations like that with Rhett.
In 1987, we had a lot of horrible conversations. It was a very bad time for all of us. I was completely falling apart. I couldn't get any satisfaction in the courts. We are now into 87, going into 88.
And so, assuming that
I was
you
freaking out.
wanted to vent those kinds of feelings, did you think it was appropriate to vent them like that with your children?
Not particularly appropriate to vent them with the children, but I think it was more appropriate that the children knew what was going on and why.
And
no,
knew,
don't
for
think so.
example, like you said, that as long as someone is it's okay to call them up. And when Rhett would cry when you were in the middle,
I don't remember that. I mean, there were thousands and thousands of conversations, morning, noon, and night. Most of them very friendly and very good, about nothing to do with foul language or anybody's problems.
No, not coming here for the exchange? No. Why not? She just said no. What's the matter? I'm gonna make a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving dinner with all my wonderful food, and the Boylsons are coming, and the McKelsons are coming, and the Saracens are coming. We're all gonna have a wonderful time, and you guys need to be here. You don't belong in the... And your father is drunken, divorced friends, like last year. Remember last year the said your father had... Yeah. She was right. But you do it. And she's too smart to walk out on him. Well, where's Lily? Is she still there or she go away? What? Lily still in the room you're in or she go away? She go away. Poor little Muffy, I put her out back to get some exercise in the sunshine and she's crying at the back door. She wants her baby back. Only 3 babies left now. What? Only 3 babies left. Oh, oh, they drink milk out of a bowl. If you put a bowl of milk down, they go. I haven't given them any food yet, but they're kind of cute. And they haven't got fluffy yet. You know how they get fluffy, like when you got yours, she was fluffy? Yeah. You don't have to give any away. No one else to get up. We're giving one away. We're giving one away already. Oh. To that girl that was at your meeting. We're giving 3 away. No. I can't
So
keep
sad.
them. Nobody's here to play with them. They poop all over them. Can we keep one? We were going to keep the rest, but it died. Can't we keep another one? No, we're going to do puppies again and get them again. No, the lady who was at the meeting gets one. The girl who does my nails gets one. And Cannon Christopher is getting the little boy one. You and I have Topsy and Mother. We have our dog, Mother's the best. Oh, I want a baby. You had a baby, Muppy. Cute baby. Muppy was a cute baby. No, I want to raise another. Over here, and you missed her growing up because Daddy's such a... Right? Right. So why give you another baby and then you miss growing up again?
Make sure you guys are liking this video.
Man,
having
I
it.
hate to tell you this, but you gotta learn to stick up for yourself, and you gotta speak up to daddy. And
I'm having another issue here. Hold on. It's not showing up. There we go. All right.
he's killing you all. He's ruining your lives and killing you, and you've got to speak up and fight back. I'm not dead. Yeah, well, maybe you're not dead physically, but emotionally you're dead.
Oh,
You don't
it's
have
horrible.
anyone that loves you or cares about you over there, and he mistreats you, treats you like a little piece of.
Not
And he's
good.
a cold-hearted. What kind of a parent is that? A cold one. Bad one. Very, 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 very bad one. And you shouldn't put up with it anymore.
This is very triggering for me because I remember parents talking bad about another parent when I was young, and it's not okay. I mean, Betty's not perfect here. She made a lot of bad mistakes. This is detrimental. Absolutely.
To tell them to, you and Lily and Danny should say, and come over here. Tell them to drop dead and go away. And then you'll be happy over here. I think up. He's a maniac. He is a raving mental maniac. That's why you don't want us to talk to him. We're just get away. Just get over here. Oh, God. I'll get the police to beat the shit out of him. Do it. What? Do it. Well, first you gotta get over here. I can't just send the police over there. Why? Because he's not doing anything wrong over there. But if you can't tell the judges and the police that you want to be here, and you get here, and he's got not a leg to stand on. Not a leg to stand on. So he can't go in court. What? He can't go in court. What? What? You'll never bring us. Oh, you. Anything. What will you tell him? Put some around that. Okay. Maybe I'll come over and I'll bring the TV cameras and the police with me today. You want me to do that? Yeah. I do? Yeah. I would like to do it too. But I can't do it. Ask Lily if she wants me to do it. Come rescue her today. This is like getting the hostages out of Lebanon. And Iranian hostages. Like do a sneak attack. What are Iranians? People from Iran. Oh. They're always making war on everybody and being jerks. And they take people hostage and won't let them go. And after Daddy has you guys hostage. He has you hostage, little prisoners, and he won't let you go. You're prisoners of war. Poor baby.
She's unhinged here.
Danny, talk to me. What? Is Danny anywhere where you see him? No. I hear him or anything? No. Where'd he go? No.
So sad.
I didn't try to avoid him. Maybe he's over here. No. Say, Mom. Yeah, no. Sounds like he's coming up the private road. Wouldn't that be a surprise if he came here? Yeah. That was fun the day you came here, remember? What day? From the beach? Yeah. I hear kids down on the beach playing.
Wait when you hear the next call. That's going to be.
Down on the beach playing. What, honey? Did you hear people at the beach playing? Yeah, I hear them yelling. And I hear the waves crashing. And I hear Muffy going, shout your baby. What? When are you going to get over here? Don't know. When he tells you can't come for Thanksgiving, don't you say anything back? Or you just say, oh. Uh-oh, Muffy, stop it. Muffy, stop. What's she doing? She's way in so get the baby. Well, go fight, beat up Daddy.
Family raised them afterwards. Mad Marcia, thanks for being with us.
Beat up Daddy. Mom?
You did You've acknowledged leaving some messages on the phone answering machine at Dan Broderick's house.
Thousands and thousands. Yeah.
And you did it intentionally to harass him.
Thousands.
Not the thousands and thousands of messages. No, some of them.
Well, let's, for example.
Oh no, here again. Got clean anyway. The mere existence is a filthy statement on human life. You're like the scum of the earth. People like you are not new, They've been around since the beginning of the same old story. Yeah. I wonder when my kids are coming home. Oh well. Call back later, I guess, just to harass you.
Obviously, you left that message just to harass Dan and Linda, correct?
No, incorrect. That was a call to my children. They were not home. I surmised they were not home, and I reached Linda, the office girl's name on the machine, which shouldn't have been there. And it was a call to my kids. Okay. But I knew if the kids weren't there and I kept calling back, it would harass him that I was calling. I wasn't calling to harass him.
Well, okay, you said there at the end, I'll call back later just to harass you.
Well, I'd call back to reach the kids, but I knew if I had to call a few times before the kids got there, that it would be bothersome to him. But how would I know when the kids would be there?
Now that was
Hey guys, do me a favor right now, just to help get this video out. Can you just go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. If you're on here and you've not subscribed to our channel, I would so appreciate your support, and we will continue this on.
a call that was intended to harass them, correct?
I never picked up the phone to call Dan Broderick to harass him. I called to reach my children. If I got the machine, I would be mad and harassed, and I would say ugly things to him.
You said this is so much fun. You were having fun?
I was referred to him by a client of his, and he asked me to come to his house to have a discussion in regards to providing protective services for him at his wedding.
Did Mr. Broderick state why he was hiring you?
Yes, he did.
What did he state?
He stated that he was hiring myself and my partner to protect him on his wedding day because of threats to his life and the life of his fiancée on the day of their marriage.
And what arrangements did you work out with Mr. Broderick for that wedding day?
I arranged for myself and a partner. Myself, I stayed at his residence the entire wedding day from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. My partner stayed at Mrs. Broderick's residence in La Jolla and followed her everywhere she went that day.
Mr. Broderick showed you a restraining order?
Yes, he did. He armed us both with copies of the restraining order.
Okay, real quick, I just want to say one thing. I believe this is after the incident where she drove her truck right into the front door of Dan's house. If you don't know what that is, I'm not sure if I grabbed that clip because, like I said, I condensed everything down to an hour here. We're more than halfway through right now. But they hired a bodyguard for their wedding, between Linda and Dan's wedding. And that, I believe, happened after she drives the truck right through the front door. She was pissed off, Betty. She was losing it, and finding out that she was not going to get nearly what she thought she was going to get in the divorce settlement. So she gets in her car and she goes over to the house. And while Dan and the kids are in the house, and this is terrible because somebody could have really gotten hurt. Full blast, pedal to the metal, takes her truck, Jeep, Bronco, whatever it is she has, and goes full speed right into the front door of his house. And the kids were, on the other side of that door. So that goes to show you just how crazy she was getting. You know what I mean? I just want to make sure you guys knew that in case we don't see a clip on that. I don't think we will. So they ended up hiring a bodyguard because they were worried that she was going to kill them. And I think there were threats made that she would kill them on their wedding day.
Did Mr. Broderick tell you other reasons why he was especially concerned about his safety and his guest safety and Linda Broderick's safety on his wedding day?
Yes, he did.
What did he tell
mention
you?
it here.
He stated he took me out to the front of his residence and showed me where Mrs. Broderick had driven into the front door of his house. And
There you go.
Stated to me that she had threatened him over the phone several times. He stated to me that she had purchased a weapon.
Did you tell Kim on several occasions that you were going to kill Dan and or Linda at the wedding?
No, I never told anybody, but Dan and Linda told people for a full year, including Michael Campbell, that they hired, but they told everyone, family and friends, from the day they planned this marriage a year earlier, that I was going to come with a machine gun and kill everyone at the wedding and put bullets through her head and everything, and I laughed about it. I said she had a soap opera mentality. But I never told anybody I was going to kill anybody at the wedding.
Well, Dan and Linda did hire security guards for protection at their wedding, correct?
I know
Yes?
what they told the children.
Yes or no? Did they hire security guards, as far as you knew, at the wedding?
I knew they told the children the day they announced they were getting married that they were going to hire security guards a year later at the wedding. And because I was coming with the machine gun and going to kill everybody, and they were going to hire helicopters and everything. And it was all very exciting. And the children thought it was just wonderful.
You knew that there was a security guard that had been hired to follow you that day.
I only know now. I wouldn't have known.
You weren't aware of him at that particular day that he was
I was
following
aware
you.
of some weird person in a blue pickup following me everywhere, but I didn't know who he was.
I decided to call her up later and ask her to go to Palm Springs with me.
For on the date of the wedding?
Yes, leave that day, that afternoon, Friday.
Okay, this is her friend. Her friend is trying to help her out. She knows the wedding. You know, if you found out that your ex-husband was getting married this Saturday, you'd probably want to make plans and go do something, right? Especially after everything with this woman, right? You should not be home alone. Yes, Meredith Baxter Birney played Betty Broderick in a made-for-TV movie, La Donna Girl. Absolutely. It's an excellent movie. You know, and again, one thing about Betty I've noticed is she's very honest. She says when she says things, she'll admit it. So when she says, I never said anything about coming to their wedding with a machine gun, I kind of believe her because she admits all the other horrible stuff. Why not just admit this, you know? Or maybe it's because it's murder. I don't know. But, you know, I'm just saying, like, I see both sides of this. I really do. But at the end of the day, it's just such a tragedy for both sides and all around, you know? But I think she should have been let out. I just wish she had apologized for what she did, but she's been steadfast till the day she died.
Afternoon, and to spend the weekend out of town.
Okay. And what was her response?
No, she did not want to go.
Okay, what did you do next?
So then I said, well.
And do you recall why it was that conversation was kind of unique?
Well, at the time, Danny's really shy, and he doesn't really speak up to people, and he was yelling at Mom. So it was unique in that way. And
in the conversation, was it clear to you that Danny was upset?
yes.
So just to get his money.
Yeah, that's right.
Then if he knows that, then how come he doesn't stop?
Because he says, listen, he doesn't care giving her the money. But that money is mine. I earned it. I earned it for...
All right, trigger warning. This call is very, very disturbing. And you have a crying child who's begging his mom. So just wanted to let you guys know that. But it's an important piece of evidence that unfortunately was used against her. And I think it did really hurt her, even though this particular trial that we're looking at is the actual one that ends in a mistrial. She does end up getting retried. This is played again. It's just a damning piece of evidence. And it's definitely Betty coming unhinged, for sure. You know what I mean? Just to allow this call to continue is Betty being unhinged. But she didn't get like that overnight, guys.
20 years of hard work and total shit from that asshole.
Yeah, but you're never gonna see us again. Don't you care about your family besides stupid money?
I care perfectly about my family.
Then how come you won't just shut your mouth and so we can come over there?
Somebody else is on the phone.
I don't care.
No, I don't care either. I took absolute perfect care of my family. I was the best mommy in the whole world and the best wife in the whole world. It's not my fault your father's such a fuckhead. I care plenty about my family. I only work 24 hours a day for 7 years.
So then fine. If it isn't your fault, then why don't you just mind your own business and not care if...
What do you mean, mind my own business?
And don't care who he's seeing. He could be seeing a totally different girl. What makes it different?
Well, I guess you're a real California kid. Congratulations, your brain is scrambled eggs. You've been living with him too long. You don't have any sense of value, right and wrong, up and down, in and out, black and white, truth or lie. Stay living with him your whole head over.
All you care about them is the money.
That's what he tells you, right?
No.
Yeah.
But that's all. No, that's what you tell me. But then what do you care about besides the money?
I wish this person would hang up the phone.
Nobody's on the phone.
Are you in the kitchen?
No, I'm upstairs.
Well, what's that noise?
It was what noise?
Let me go back around and stuff in the kitchen.
It's not in the kitchen. It's up here.
Where is it?
Everybody walking upstairs. There's the babysitter and Red and Lee and Dad and stuff.
That's stuff. You mean the comes there?
No.
Well,
Okay, what else do you care about besides your money and your share of things to own?
what do you think else do I care about? I cared about my family bad enough to put up with him fucking Linda for 2 years.
Yeah, well, if you care about your family and if you stop saying bad words, Mom.
I put up with shit in my face for 2 years, and you kids never even knew it. You never knew he was fucking Linda while I was married to me, did you?
No.
No, and I did. And I put up with shit for 2 years hoping he'd get over this. And he'd grow up. And he obviously is too weak a little faggot.
But no, you don't. If you care about your family, you stop saying bad words.
Well, I repeat again, I'd rather be a lady and a wonderful person than call a cunt a cunt.
Well, you're not going to be a wonderful person to very many people if you don't stop saying those bad words.
I'm sick of the cunts answering the telephone and not letting my messages through. I'm keeping my children away from me on 2 Christmases and 2 Thanksgivings and 2 birthdays.
It's not only Minnie's fault, it's Dad's fault too, and it's your fault, Mom.
Why?
Because you keep on saying bad words. That would never happen. You would never be calling here.
The first Christmas, your father took me away, took you guys away from me, and hooked Linda right in front of you at the ski place. We were married, and I wasn't calling anybody a cunt then.
What ski place?
In Utah. We were married when he did that.
Oh yeah, but you were still separated.
Well, what difference does that make? We were married. And you were my 4 kids that he took away from me for Christmas and put you in an ugly apartment where I could...
No, but he did take you away. You gave us to him.
On Christmas?
No, on Easter. You sent me over there on Easter, and in a couple hours more, they were over here.
Mm-hmm. And you've just been having a good time ever since.
No, we haven't. We're having a horrible time. You keep on saying the bad words, and we're never going to be able to come over there if you don't stop. And if you don't stop, it just shows me that all you care about is your money.
Well, this house isn't as pretty as that house.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot prettier.
This house?
I think so. The one neater.
Poor kid.
In a better spot. I don't like you in gay town. With all the criminals and all the retards and the old folks and the drug dealers.
Now,
Horrible.
you've heard a conversation that you had with Danny.
But it was situational craziness. If they would just leave me alone and let me have a life, I'd be fine.
And so she got up that day and she decided to go to the beach. And you will hear, because when she opened the letter and saw it, she writes on the letter exactly what her feelings are. I can't take this anymore. This has got to end. There's got to be a resolution to that. And she will tell you that as she sat there at that table, thinking about that and being so depressed, and the walls were closing in on her, and everything seemed to be horrible for her, she had to get out of the house, and she did, and you'll see that she went to walks on the beach all the time when she was depressed. She decided that she had to leave. She had to get out of there. And she left.
The next morning, do you recall being awakened by anything?
I remember
This is her
truck
boyfriend.
starting up and leaving.
When you refer to a truck, you're referring to her suburban
Yes.
truck?
Or what I believe, to be, it sounded like her vehicle starting up and I just rolled over and went back to sleep.
And how was it that you would have heard that?
I was in the front bedroom of the house, and the driveway was nearby.
And you just heard the car start up?
Yes.
And then what happened? What did you hear?
Well, I assumed it pulled away. I heard it start up and just kind of rolled over and went back to sleep.
About what time was it when you heard the car leave?
That would be hard to judge. Could guess, but I don't necessarily remember it being light outside.
Okay. And you got in the car and you headed towards the beach. You testified that you headed towards the beach, correct?
Right.
Okay, now where were you when you made the decision to not go to the beach and to go to Dan Broderick's house instead?
I don't know. I don't know at what point I made that, but I know I went out of my street and around and down to where you would have had to turn right to go to where I go to the Sea Lodge and stuff, and I went straight to Dan's house. So I had either made it before that turn or right at that turn.
Did you end up going to the beach?
I left the house to go to the beach. I never got to the beach, no.
And why was that?
Because I was going to go down to the beach. That was the first thought. Just go to the beach, just get the air. And then I thought I was just going to fucking blow my brains out. But I said, no, let's not do that. That's not what's good for the boys, We're going to go over, we're going to talk to Dan. We're going to just try one more time to talk to Dan, to tell him to give me the kids and just leave us alone. He doesn't even have to give me any money, just leave us alone. So I went over to talk to Dan.
What were you going to do when you went to Dan's?
Sorry for the glitching.
I was going to ask him for the kids and to just leave me alone. And if he wouldn't agree at all, I was just going to kill myself in his house, not down at the beach and not at my house. And I had been contemplating suicide for a long time. It's in the diaries. I was extremely despondent in what was going on in my life here because I couldn't handle it. And I knew that if I killed myself, it was going to be in front of Dan Broderick so that he couldn't just say, see, I told you she was crazy. I had nothing to do with it.
She left them all sleeping soundly, her two sons not knowing that they would never see their father again. And she chose to leave her safe and comfortable home and to get into her car and to drive across town to Dan and Linda's house. She took with her two critical things. One was the gun. It's a .38 caliber Smith & Wesson 5-shot revolver, her gun. The other was a set of keys with a very identifiable key on it that she knew would get her into Dan and Linda's house. The gun she had loaded up with hollow point bullets, which are bullets specifically designed to do the maximum amount of damage possible when shot into someone. They're designed to kill. The keys weren't her keys. They belonged to her daughter, Kim. And they had mysteriously disappeared from Kim's possession earlier when she'd been with her mother. Kim didn't know where they were. Elizabeth Broderick had kept them because she knew there was going to come a time when she'd have the opportunity to use them. When was it that you checked to make sure that you had the gun in your purse so that you could blow your brains out?
I didn't check to make sure I had the gun in my purse. I knew the gun was in my purse.
So you
I never checked it.
So you drove all the way over to Dan Broderick's house, all the way from La Jolla to Marsden Hills, with the plan or the intent of possibly killing yourself, and you never checked to make sure that you had a gun to kill yourself?
I wouldn't have had to check it. The purse was there, the gun was there. I wouldn't have had to check it. The purse is large. I mean, the purse was there.
So you never turned and looked to make sure you had the gun or to make sure that the gun was loaded? You just knew that it was there?
If the purse was there, the gun was there. If the gun was there, the gun was loaded.
And in fact, that's what you testified as to why you took the gun, to make him listen to you, right?
Right.
And it didn't have anything to do at that point with wanting to kill yourself. You took the gun initially because you wanted to make him listen to you.
I took the gun into the house to make him listen to me. If he wouldn't listen to me, I was going to kill myself.
You took the gun as a show of force, were your words?
So that he couldn't say, you've got 10 seconds to get off this property or I'm going to call the police. Or Linda couldn't yell like she used to yell out the window. You want me to call the police?
And did you think that by pointing a gun at him and forcing him to listen to you and forcing him to tell you that he was going to give you the kids, did you think that he was genuinely going to be inclined then to truly give you the kids after you confronted him in that manner?
I thought so.
Let me just say this. Another thing that was making her spiral was that she actually, on so many occasions, tried to arrange to get in front of Dan Broderick and just have a civil conversation, and he wouldn't let her. He would be like, I'm going to call the cops on you every single time she showed up. And that is, I mean, think about that for a second. You're married to this man for so many years, and he is making you think that you are so scary and unstable. And this happened before she even got scary, guys. This happened way before she ever was exhibiting this behavior that got real bad. She just wanted to have discussions with him, and he wouldn't even let her. And it just made her worse and worse and worse. So that makes sense to me that she would hold a gun at him. I wouldn't do it, but I mean, it does make sense because she had tried so many times before to have a conversation with him to try to end all this and come to an agreement with the divorce, which he was just keeping it going. He was keeping it going. No doubt about that. And holding a gun to his head to just get him to hear you out. I know that doesn't make sense, but in this crazy mindset she had, it does. You know what I mean?
I thought I could make him see how serious I was, and then I really wanted the kids like now. No more playing games.
When the defendant got to Dan and Linda Broderick's house that morning, it was still very early. It was about 5:30 in the morning. It was a Sunday morning. It was quiet. It was peaceful. The entire city was basically sound asleep. And at that point, when she parked her car in front of the house, she obviously had the opportunity to think about what she was doing. This was not an immediate, rash, impulsive act. She had that opportunity on the entire drive over this. There were no distractions. There was no one forcing her to do anything. But she chose to go forward. She was determined to do it. And she made deliberate choices every step of the way. She chose to take the gun out of her purse so that she'd have it right there in her hand, ready to use. She chose to take the keys out of the car. She chose to get out of the car, and she chose to go up to their house. She knew that Dan and Linda would be home alone that morning. Dan and Elizabeth Broderick had had 4 children together. Their 2 daughters, Kim and Lee, didn't live at home anymore. They were grown. And as I mentioned, their 2 sons, Danny and Red,
going through some of the
left back at her house in La Jolla.
opening.
So she knew they'd be there alone. This is their home. It's set back some distance from the street, not a real far distance. She had parked out in the street and approached the house. She didn't go in the front door, even though it's the most logical door to go into because it's at the front of the house, and even though this key worked to the front door. But there was a reason for that. And you'll see as we get inside the house that the master bedroom, Dan and Linda Broderick's bedroom, was at the top of the stairs, and the stairs are right inside the front door. And so if she'd gone in that front door, there was a possibility that they might have heard her. So she chose to go around the house and go in the back door so that she couldn't be heard. This is the back door that she went in the house. You can see that it was a 2-story house. Right off the back door is the kitchen. She went through the kitchen, went into a hallway.
This is right from the time it happened.
And the stairs, right as you enter the front door. And you can see the door to their bedroom right off the top of the stairs. Again, she didn't go in that door at the top of the stairs, even though she could have. Nothing was preventing her from doing that. As you can see, from their position on the beds, if they had been awake, they might have been able to see her, might have been able to do something to protect themselves. And so she didn't go in this door. She went down this hallway and into a little TV room, which is behind the bedroom.
Okay. When you got to the house, went in the back door, do you remember where you went?
I got upstairs, I know that, but I don't know which route I took.
Okay. And when you went upstairs, do you remember where you went when you got to the top of the stairs?
The door to the bedroom was closed, but the next door was open, so I went in that door.
Okay. And where does that door lead to?
To what they call a TV room, but it's part of the bedroom suite on that side of the house.
Okay. And was anybody up at that time that you saw?
No,
And this is
Hey, if you're just joining me right now, look down at your computer screen, your phone, hit that like button for me. It helps to get the video out. I really do appreciate all your help, guys. Thank you so much.
the back for the second door to the bedroom, which is the door that she came in. She had the cover of the lamp here. She was coming in a dark corner. The windows were on the other side of the room.
What did, when you went into the TV room, what was the next thing that you did?
The TV room door was wide open, and then the door to their bedroom was part open. It wasn't closed. It was like a jar.
Okay. And did you go into that? Did you then go into their bedroom?
Yes.
Dan and Linda were in bed, sound asleep. It was 5:30 on a Sunday morning. They'd been out the night before with friends, having dinner. Elizabeth Broderick stood right next to the bed, literally almost right on top of them. And without hesitation, and those are her words, after she entered the bedroom, without hesitation, she opened fire and gunned them down. She pointed the gun at them and she pulled the trigger 5 times. And this is not an automatic, this is a revolver. You have to pull the trigger each time in order to shoot this gun. And you will see that it's not a particularly easy trigger to pull. And you'll also see that every one of her shots was aimed to kill.
Okay, and what did you do when you went into their bedroom?
Well, the motion that I made, although I don't think it was a big motion, the movement that I made into their bedroom woke them up, and they moved, and somebody screamed, "Call the police," and I said, "No!" And I just fired the gun, and this big noise went off, and then I grabbed the phone and got the hell out of there. But I wasn't even in that room. I mean, it just was an explosion. Just, I moved, they moved, the gun went off, and it was like, ah! And it was that fast. I don't know what was going on. I heard this humongous noise and what seemed like a flash or something, and the gun was empty. I don't have any recollection of doing this for the first shot, for the 5 shots, or thereafter when the gun was empty. But the gun was empty.
Do you believe that?
This is a scale
Answer below.
diagram of the bedroom. 2 different pictures of the same bedroom. When the defendant entered the bedroom, she stood right about here. Linda was basically lying flat on her back in the bed. The first shot at her went right into her chest, right above her heart, right exactly where you'd shoot someone if you were intending to kill them. That shot went completely through her body and into the bed underneath her. That shot in itself would have killed her. It was fatal. She shot Dan, who was most probably lying on his side with his back to her, because she shot him right in the middle of the back. And he either tried to frantically dive away as she was shooting at him, or he simply fell off the bed in response to being shot. A second shot at him missed and went right into the wall beyond him. Linda had also reacted to being shot by trying to roll away or get away from the defendant. But the defendant shot at her 2 more times. One shot just barely missed her head, went into the nightstand right next to the bed. The other shot was right on target, right in the middle, the back of her head. That shot exploded through her brain and killed her instantly. They both were shot in the back as they were trying to get away. She had to aim at Linda. She had to change her aim to get Dan. She had to change her aim again to get Linda again.
I don't remember seeing Linda or Dan at all. It was just blurred.
How do you know that Linda moved towards Dan and Dan moved towards the phone if you didn't see it?
Because all I'm trying to do is explain what I thought happened then. Is that Linda, who was closest to me, that I know now from pictures, moved toward Dan, and Dan moved toward the phone, and she yelled, "Call the police," and that's what was going on there, and that's how I knew the phone was over there.
If you had any question whatsoever about the fact that they were moving, it is true that they were moving away from you, correct?
Yes.
And what about moving away from you was so frightening or startling that it caused you to start shooting your gun?
When I entered the room, I was about to say something to them. They said first, and they started moving, and I just panicked. It was not a thought process.
You brought the gun for a show of force. You brought the gun to make him listen to you.
Him, right.
But when you entered the room, you didn't use the gun for a show of force. You didn't use the gun to say, hold it, I want to talk to you, Buster. You shot.
I didn't have a chance.
You didn't have a chance? What do you mean you didn't have a chance?
Because it all happened so fast. I'm telling you, it wasn't a thought process. I moved, they moved, the gun went off, and it was over that fast.
The bullet that hit Dan,
What do you guys
who
think of
was
that
now lying
story?
on the floor, had pierced through his lung, but he didn't die instantly. As he laid there on the floor, wounded, he tried to reach for the phone that was on the nightstand next to the bed, presumably to call for help. Elizabeth Broderick was now out of bullets. It was a 5-shot gun. She'd shot all 5 of them, 2 at Dan and 3 at Linda. But Dan was still alive and reaching for the phone. It's at this point that the evidence will show how clearly the defendant's intent was to kill these 2 people. Because when she saw that Dan was still alive, she didn't pick up the phone herself and call 911 and say, oh my God, I've just shot 2 people, come quick, what have I done? She didn't just panic and run out of the house. What she did was to walk all the way around the bed, over to where Dan was lying, to where, as she later told someone, she could hear him gurgling in his own blood. And what she did was she picked up the phone and ripped it out of the wall, literally tearing the cord in half. And she did it in her own words so he couldn't save himself. There would be no chance to call for help. She then walked out of the room, dumping the broken phone at the top of the stairs. And when she left, this is a photograph of the scene, Linda lay dead in a pool of blood. Dan Broderick was left to essentially suffocate in his own blood and die anywhere from a couple of minutes to as much as a half hour later. The shot that he took actually was very similar to the shot that President Reagan took through his lung, but President Reagan was rushed to the hospital and he survived. Dan didn't have that opportunity. Not once in the minutes to hours after Elizabeth Broderick left them there, while she was busily calling people to tell them what she had done, not once did she express any remorse for what she'd done, or did she make any effort to get them help. She went over there wanting them dead, and she made sure that they died.
Do you remember where you went after that?
Well, I had nowhere to go. I mean, I was afraid Dan was after me. I was afraid when I went into that house of confronting Dan, and then when I left, I thought he was after me. And so I thought, oh man, you can't go home because he's gonna have called the police, and the police are gonna be waiting at my house, and I didn't want to scare the boys and everything, so I didn't go home. So I ended up at a phone in Claremont, at a gas station in Claremont.
Destroyed? Yeah, I'm real remorseful about, I have nothing left in life, and the family was all I cared about. So I'm very sorry that my entire family was destroyed, but I don't think my family was destroyed on November 5th, 89. My family was destroyed before that.
To you, what happened November 5th, 89?
This is a news outlet. Before we continue, hold on. I'll rewind it if you'd like. This is not the phone call that she makes to Lee, her daughter. This is a call very soon after, but it just shows pretty much for the rest of her life. Okay, until the day she died, this was her attitude about it, and this is how she spoke about the crime.
Destroyed, but I don't think my family was destroyed on November 5th, 89. My family was destroyed before that.
To you, what happened November 5th, 89?
I stopped it all. It ended. It just was over. Dan Broderick is the one who said it would never be over until one of us was gone. Well, it's over now.
Pretty cold, right, guys? I mean, if it's just, I want to talk to you guys for a few minutes before we wrap it up. But I mean, I want to hear what you guys have to say. Do you feel that, number one, let's look at the crime first. Do you think that when she got up that morning and took her gun and those keys, do you think it was what she said, that she was just going to go there and put a gun to her head and demand Dan to talk to her. And if he didn't talk to her, she was going to blow her brains out? Or do you think she took the gun and the keys and she said, I'm going over there right now and I'm taking them out? Post right now. I want to hear what you guys have to say. There is no right or wrong answer. Let me be clear about that. This case is very old. Okay. It is, Betty is now passed away. 4 children have been put through the ringer for so many years, their entire lives. There is no right or wrong answer because honestly, the truth is that both sides have points and some don't, right? Like they have pros and cons. And the fact that she takes a gun with the keys, that is the one thing that we'll never know the answer to. We'll never know if that was really what she was going to do. It's believable. It's believable that she would hold a gun to her head and say, please talk to me, because the guy was not letting her have a conversation with him. Everything was through lawyers, which was costing so much money. And he was totally making her crazy. No doubt about that. He was making her crazy. And when she says he wanted to continue this on, that's true. He was playing with her head. I mean, he could have just said, here, look, I'm going to give you this much. You were my wife for so many years. You're the mother of my children. I want to make sure you're taken care of. He could have done all that, and he didn't. He knew she was going crazy. He could have put an end to it, but he didn't. But on the flip side, she didn't have to make those awful voicemail messages. She didn't have to get on the phone and talk disgusting to her own children. There were things she did wrong too, guys. There really is no right or wrong answer. But I know there's mitigating factors here. And I think that, man, I wish she had said sorry. But she didn't say sorry, ever, for any of it. Which really sucks, because if she had said sorry, I would have said let her out after like 25 years. But she never got out. She never got out. And I also believe she is a very unique situation in that she's not a murderer in any other scenario but this one. This very specific scenario where Dan played a role in her mind and heart completely being destroyed. So it's just so upsetting. What do you guys all think? Hello, Mad Marsha. Thank you for being with us. That's a tough one, she says. Yes, I think she wanted to shoot both of them, but didn't think of anything beyond that. Hello, Brian. If she brought the gun with her, she was going to use it for something. Yeah, but she could have just used it for what she said, right? To just get him to speak to her, because he would not talk to her. He would call the police on her anytime she showed up. Anytime. He was making her nuts. So, hello, Teresa. Thank you so much for joining us today. Teresa says she was mentally unwell, I think, when she went to kill them, but he definitely tortured her. He was unreasonable. Kelly, hello. Thank you for being with Moms for Justice today. She writes, she used to come into a store I worked at. She was a piece of work. Please tell us more. Oh my goodness, that's so interesting. I wish you could just call into the show right now so we could hear your stories. I would love to hear that. Actually, email me, momsforjusticenow@gmail.com. I plan to do a second episode on the retrial that ends in a conviction. Send me, we'll talk. Send me an email. Hello, Joyous 9576. Thank you for being with us today. I think she planned to go there to take them out. She stole her daughter's keys to Dan's house after purchasing the gun. Betty was bitter after the divorce and stayed that way until the end. Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's no wrong or right or wrong answer here. I mean, all these answers can work, I know I have the interview with Oprah. Misdemeanor, thank you for being with us today. In an interview with Oprah, she said that the murder was the most fascinating thing she's ever done. Really? I don't remember her making that comment. Interesting. Guys, comment below. I want to hear what you all think. I'm going to go up here a little bit. Hey, Cheryl. How are you doing, girl? Repeat viewer here. She writes, I think she wanted it to end. She was extremely mentally ill. And if that meant killing herself or Dan or both of them, it didn't matter. She wanted it to end. Yeah. Pussycat 6512, hello. Thank you for being here. She was in and out of body experience. She had a nervous breakdown. She wasn't right at all. Definitely agreed. You know, and like I said, if you weren't here from the beginning of the video, make sure that when you're done, you watch it from the beginning, because I go into this a little bit more, but I'll say again, I was involved in a messy divorce, the youngest child of 3 girls from a messy divorce. And of course, it didn't escalate to this level, but there was a lot of hurt, and there was a lot of parents talking to each other through children. Okay. Not necessarily this level, but there was some things. There was some things that, yeah, not good. Not good at all. In fact, I know that this case has been triggering to even, some people in my own family. Hello, Anel 70-G6P. Thank you for being here. Guys, make sure you guys are liking the video and you subscribe to the channel. I so appreciate all your support. So Anel says, were the children ever their priority? Both of them did not really care about their children. I 100% agree with you. I think they loved their children, but when things get messy between 2 adults, because I think to raise a family, you have to be a united front, a man and a woman, father, mother. I think that is so necessary because it is so hard to raise kids, right? And when you lose that one person, your partner, whether it be the mother or the father, things change in your life. You have to go about things differently. For example, when you are a woman who never worked before and you were raising your child and doing the cooking and the laundry and paying the bills and being home all day, to all of a sudden being left stranded by the man in your life, then you have to all of a sudden look for a job, right? Because how are you going to pay for things when your ex-husband is leaving you next to nothing? Now, I know that's not the case here. I know he was rich and all that. I had a lot of money, but she was living a certain way that she wouldn't be able to afford anymore unless he provided that for her. And he was giving her a hard time about that. But overall, not just Betty and Dan, women, they're thrown for a loop when the man announces that I'm leaving you for a younger woman, and then he divorces you. And that woman is in a very difficult situation. The woman who never got her degree or never went on and got a career, instead gave everything up for the man and chose to stay home, as united front chose to stay home. And then what? So he leaves. Now, you get so much in alimony or child support, but it's usually not enough, right? So now she has to go get a job. So then she has to go get a job. And then you're dealing with the emotions of being abandoned and left. And now you're not so stable anymore. And your parenting style is going to change. And you don't have the father figure in the home anymore to enforce the rules. Because, unless you're like, I don't know about you guys, but I'm a very mild, calm mom. And my kids are the type that will, if I try to lay down the law, it's almost a joke. I mean, they don't laugh at me, but what I'm saying is like, I just don't have the ability to be like, hey, you're going to do this and you're going to do this now. I don't have that kind of thing about me. I just don't. My husband is that person. He's the one that when I'm not able to get my children to do something, he's the one that comes into the room and everybody stops. You know what I mean? Well, we change. We change. If we don't have him there anymore, we change. It is so incredibly, difficult to judge these people. You still have to, do your best as a mother and a father, and you have a responsibility to not contaminate your children's brains. I mean, that's what they did. But I'm going to acknowledge that she was thrown for a loop, right? Yes, Mad Marcia says it was a very 50s style relationship. I'm 100% in agreement with that. Yes. Yeah, she worked the whole time that he was in school. And she had illnesses, miscarriages, you name it. She'd be puking her brains out and going from one job to another. Yes. Hey, Mike. I like that we have a man on here, or maybe it's a woman using her man's account. But Mike Berry says, my only horror is for the children that they will carry this for life. I think they already have. And I think that they're in a lot of pain right this moment. Because I think a lot of people think that the kids could have helped Betty to get out earlier. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But I don't think for 1 second, not one of them is mourning right now. I think they loved their mom. I think that they thought she did a very bad thing. I know half of them were a little more harsh about her than the other. But I think all four of them really struggled when she passed away. I mean, think about it. And then you let out that deep breath that you've been holding all these years. And it's just so sad. She's gone. She's gone. The woman who changed our lives forever in so many ways, who's our actual mom, she's now gone. And I pray for them. Pray for them. Pray for the family of Linda Coquina. Pray for the brother. Is he still alive? Dan Broderick's brother? I'm not sure if he's still alive, but just pray for all of them because, you know, and hopefully she's with Jesus. You know, hopefully she asked the Lord for forgiveness for what she did. Base Girl says, it's the most gut-wrenching thing I've ever experienced. Unless you've been through a divorce and your life changed, it's hard to imagine what it feels like. I have never felt sorry for Dan. Thank you for your 2 cents. So I personally, guys, have never been through a divorce, but I've been the child of one. And I know how hard it is. And I know what my mom went through. And I know my dad's side and my mom's side. And yeah, it never got this bad, but it was bad at times. And it's very, very painful. Very painful. And it involved all the messy things. You know, there was other women, money. There's a lot of things. And so this case is so triggering to me. And as, you know, like I said, I'm in my 50s now, but when this came out, I was literally Kim's age. You know, I was within maybe a year or two of Kim's age. And I remember watching it. And at that time, I could not define why I was so attracted to the case. But now that I look back at it retrospectively, I'm like, wow, you know, and I've always gone back to it. I'm like, well, that's why, you know. So it is definitely. Anyway, I'm going to come on with a part 2 on this. Hopefully I'll get an email from that girl because I would love to talk to somebody who knew Betty back then. Back from before she went to prison. I would love, love, love. If there's anybody else on here that knows Betty, has spoken to Betty, even at any point, I would love to hear from prior to the murder, after the murder. I would just love to talk to some people that knew her. It would be really, really wonderful. So anyway, that's it for today. I was on for a long time today. I'm sorry if I kept anybody from anything important. Happy Mother's Day to everybody again. And if you have not subscribed to Moms for Justice, please consider subscribing and hanging out with me on my lives. I do lots of cases and I love the community here. And that's it, really. So I will see you all very, very soon. I'm going to be on a lot this week. I might even be on again later with a different case. So I love you all. God bless you guys.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the hosts and guests. All individuals mentioned are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law.